And so, Al, I would like to introduce you to our next guest. She's not new to the USA Global TV platform. I think she's been with us quite a few times. And I invited her back today because I just loved the way Susie presents her art with, I call it art with heart. How about that, Susie? Susie, come on up and meet Al and all our viewers and listeners. Welcome, Susie Nathanson.
Hello, and thanks for having me. And as Al was saying, it's such a special thing to be here, part of World Jenny's Day, and the amazing list and lineup of performers and artists that you have. I feel it's incredibly special to be here. So thank you.
Great
Wonderful to have you. Yeah. So Susie, Al, do you want to ask a little bit about Susie? I know all about her. I'm the College of Knowledge. You find out.
I'm sorry. Say again. Was that a cue to me?
That's okay. Okay. From the top. I was just suggesting you might like to know more about Susie.
I definitely would, and how her performance is going to feed into the whole mission of World Jenny's Day. So sure, Susie.
Yeah. So I'm a painter. I'm an artist based in London, and I specialise in storytelling portraits of people, animals, and objects. And I have a particular interest in painting vintage toys and performers. And the thing that I wanted to show you both today was two paintings, one which is a work in progress, and the other one which is a finished piece. And they are both paintings which are dealing with challenging subjects of grief and loss, but in a way that I hope is beautiful and poetic and ultimately kind of healing, sort of a way of finding peace with a challenging circumstance. And as and when we can sort of take one, we can look at each one as we go, and I can tell you a little bit more about it. I think Jenetta, you've got the materials, so as and when you're ready, we can have a look.
What would you like?
Let's go for the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, and this was done in commemoration, in tribute to a very great lady. So this is just a little introduction about the painting.
Okay.
And it's based on this vintage toy that I should have had it with me so I could have shown it. But you can see it there. This is one of my loves, vintage toys, and this was made in commemoration of her coronation in the early 1950s by a toy company called Timpo Toys. And I just felt, and this is a time lapse of me painting that toy. And I was painting this whilst watching the funeral as it was going on. So it was a really poignant moment. And I felt, for me, vintage toys in and of themselves have such a special quality about them. I think it's the way that they've weathered. This is a hollow cast metal toy. So it's a bit bashed and it's a bit scraped, and it has a story, it has a life. And I felt it was a way to sort of speak to, if you like, the very full life of our Queen, and all the challenges and obstacles that she must have faced, and how she dealt with them with such dignity and grace. And this was a toy that really encapsulated that very tall, sort of erect posture, and the fact that she's sitting on this horse. And I know horses are such a symbol of joy and love for her. She was a great horse sort of breeder and fan. And I also felt this idea of being on horseback, traveling, and this idea of a voyage and journeying into the sort of the next chapter, as it were, wherever that might be. It was quite a significant thing visually, symbolically. So that's what that painting was about. And obviously it was talking about a sort of a national icon, not a lady I personally met, but certainly one I think our whole country has a great feeling for and great appreciation for. So that was one sort of example, if you like, in the way I use objects to tell stories, symbolic sort of stories about a person or an idea, and how that process in and of itself sort of helps one understand and kind of sort of make sense of, if you like, your thoughts and feelings about that subject or person. So yeah, hopefully that gives one example of how I work.
That really is beautiful work, Susie. I mean, a lot of attention to detail, and a lot of love went into that. And I know when you create these portrayals, it's not just the person you're trying to capture. In this particular case, you're trying to capture thousands of years, hundreds of years of British tradition and culture. And I'm sure you had that in your mind while you were creating this.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I shall let you know as and when it's finished, because it's still a work in progress.
And I think even that piece of video that you did, it's a work of art in itself as well.
Thank you. No, this is the other, I suppose this is the other element of, especially many artists today, in this day and age of social media, how do you kind of share the story of an artwork with people who may or may not create art themselves? How do you bring them into the process and help them understand that creative journey? And certainly video editing and putting it together and trying to use the time lapse and show the source of inspiration is all a way to hopefully doing that, but not sort of not overwhelming them with too much information at the same time. But good, I'm glad it has that impact. I'm glad.
Yeah,
very impressive.
Wonderful. And do you want me to show you your next picture?
Yes, the other picture, exactly. So this is a big painting, oil on canvas painting, which I've called Old Man River. And it's sort of, whilst we were talking about a national figure, this is not physically my father, the man in the painting, but it was, if you like, a symbol for my father. And it was painted, it was begun a few months before he passed away and continued in the aftermath after he had passed. So it's sort of over a period of maybe 3 or 4 months back in 2018. And it probably represents one of the most significant and emotional experiences I've had painting a picture. In that we didn't know, obviously, when I started it, I didn't know how long I had left with him. He was battling blood cancer at the time. And there were so many emotions going around, as you can imagine. So I had certainly a lot of conflicting ideas in my head, but ultimately trying with this painting to come to terms with what was going to be the inevitable, I suppose, and to try and make some kind of sense, visual sense, out of all these chaotic thoughts and feelings that I was going through at the time. And so the character in the painting is actually a character that I encountered at one of the Edinburgh festivals that I was attending a few years before. And he was just full of sort of a story in and of himself. But for me, it was the fact that he had this guitar and this trilby hat full of badges and stickers. He felt like this traveler. He felt like someone collecting these experiences of life, wearing them as badges of honor, if you like. And I felt that was very akin to my father and my feelings about him, this sort of eulogizing, if you like, this idea that he was a lover of travel, of art, of collecting, and that sort of was beautifully encapsulated, I felt, in this man. And then the characters around the painting. So I was trying to deal with this idea of time running out, this idea of transition, of the soul taking flight. So you have this clock and you have these crows flying towards the other side of the picture, and with that, this sort of strange explosion, if you like, of umbrellas taking flight, and with that, sort of all these wishes of things one wanted to have said, things, special memories of things experienced together. And then obviously the faded sign of Bon Voyage in the background. And then other things as well, like graffiti slang, which down below says greatness of heart, and then with a plus sign and a heart, saying mind. Greatness of mind and heart, which is sort of, again, sentiments of how I felt about my father. And then this little smoking baby in the lower right-hand corner, which was sort of a bit of a symbol about sort of this idea of battling the limitations of physical bounds. And toward the end, he was very much pushing his boundaries. He was trying to do everything and everything he could, and he was very active right up until the end. And I think it was that thing of he knew the end was in sight, and he was slightly battling that in certain ways. So I was trying to, again, make sense of that visually, and yeah, at the same time, you're kind of physically painting something and processing at the same time, and you're processing without words. You're just processing in paint visually. I am repeating myself there, but I can't sort of get across how important that was, because sometimes there's just no words to explain what you're going through in those sort of moments. But I felt such a sense of balance and peace that sort of came out of doing it, and making, as I said, making sense of things without sort of having, I don't know, without necessarily having to have another person there. It was the painting and me. It was a dialogue between the both of us. I look back on it with sort of very full emotion, and it's something that it's always interesting, without explaining anything, what people see in the painting, independently of knowing what it was that inspired it. And that particular painting ended up being exhibited in an art fair, and it was sold. And I don't think the person who bought it knew anything about where it had come from and the reasoning behind it, but it had connected with them. And it just makes me think, Jenetta, about all the things you've sort of been talking about today, and how this idea that when we bare our souls, if you like, in the deepest sense, it's incredible how many connections one makes to the sort of the experiences of other people. And actually those things, those traumas, those challenges, those painful kind of moments can be the beginning of a bridge between you and somebody else that actually is full of positive things and positive action that helps people in many, many ways. So we need to know the full spectrum, don't we, in life, of the good, the bad, the ugly, as it were, in order to really be able to live fully and connect fully to other people.
Exactly. It's all that I encompass and embrace is understanding that in that change of scenario, which comes, whatever that change is, comes with a form of grief. It's being able to see what it leads us to, or leads one to, that would be missing if it hadn't happened.
Definitely.
And I love that. And it inspires me so much when people start understanding that gift in adversity. And it's more than the theoretical way you're going, yeah, well, yeah, I get it. It's when the heart gets it.
Yeah.
And the heart really feels it and goes, I got it. And that's what your art has the capacity to do.
Thank you for saying that, and that's certainly what I'm striving toward. But thank you for sort of feeling that way. Yeah,
it's a really beautifully evocative piece and very well executed, and it's got a lot of elements to it. I'm curious about your process, Susie. Did you know you were going to be painting all those elements into this picture beforehand? Was there a plan that went into this, or did it kind of evolve as you were doing it?
A little bit of both, I think. I was doing. I fleshed it all out in a sketch beforehand, so I had the bones of what it was I wanted, and I scaled that up. So I'd worked out a lot of it, but then painting it you figure a lot more out as you go, and things happen that you don't expect will happen, and you maybe add and move features. Other things perhaps you take out entirely. So whilst you have an initial plan, the end result is always a variation of that plan. It's never exactly. So yeah.
Beautiful.
That must make it more enjoyable, though, that it doesn't go to plan. That creative, for you, does it bring out your creative juices?
Yes, definitely. Although I would say probably the most exciting element of any picture is that initial sketching period, where those elements are completely in free fall, and you're not sure how they're all going to fit together. You just know the ideas that you're trying to express, and then you're just experimenting with placing things in different positions, the scale of things as well. Like I remember playing with the scale of that clock's sort of shape behind him. How big should that be? And it ended up as a very big feature, because it obviously symbolically was a very big element.
Wow.
So yeah, the sketching phase is very much the freedom phase of, you don't have to do anything in detail. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's very loose.
Susie, as always, it's such a pleasure to have you share your art and your heart with us. I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing again. I know that this can inspire so many people too. So thank you.
Pleasure. And I would urge everyone to pick up a pencil or a brush and just whatever comes out, let it come out. It's a really great way of just dealing with things. Yeah.
Beautiful work, Susie.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susie.
Thank you.
See you again soon.
All the best, and have a wonderful rest of day to both of you. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Bye.